This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Adam Bass, our honored patron and Switch Knight.
Hey everybody, I'm Casey.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, the podcast for those gifted with a Nintendo Switch.
Well, technically, people who don't have Nintendo Switches can listen to us as well.
You're right, actually. I am surprised there are several people who in the Facebook groups have announced, and people who've been on part of the Facebook group or the Discord chat for like months. And then they'll say, hey guys, finally got a Switch today. And I'm like, oh, you didn't have one? You just hung out and talked and listened to the show? Okay.
Yeah, but I feel like our community is quite good when it comes to sharing the hype of the Switch. Mm-hmm. Perhaps they just wanted to bask in that Switch joy with us until they got the Switch themselves.
I think that's right. You know, when you're hyped about something, you just kind of can't stop thinking about it. You might as well talk to other people who can kind of feed that anxiety or that hunger.
That hunger. And I feel like those people would maybe live vicariously through the friends they make in the Discord chat. So cool stuff.
Yeah, and you know what? I think for a lot of them, only 2 weeks away, not even, before they're going to get their own Switches. A lot of these people, I think.
Yeah, I'm really excited for all you prospective Christmas Switch gift getters. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yes, and not to spoil the surprise for any of you, but today's special episode is the last-minute gift guide for Nintendo Switch, either people who have one, or we have a whole bunch of categories for the various Switch enthusiasts in your life who you might want to buy a gift for, whether they're newbies, old hats, someone who hasn't played a video game system forever, kids, vets, whatever. Yeah, we're going to try to cover every angle on this.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely a last-minute buyer's guide, because by now, maybe some of you guys are stuck figuring out what to get for, a certain relative or a friend, and we're here to help you out with that. And also keep in mind, although it is the holiday season and this is kind of tailored to that mindset, this is a gift buyer's guide. You can give gifts to anyone at any time. I feel like this would be really helpful regardless of whether it's the holiday season or not.
Yes, and we're going to flip the script today. We're actually going to kick off into that right after we finish this meta overview here. I just want to get a little bit of this housekeeping out of the way. First off, I mentioned last week how Patreon was proposing some changes to their charging system. I told you guys about it, how they were going to, put a service fee on your end rather than our end. And they just told us today that they're nixing it. They're going back because I think there was an overwhelmingly negative response to that. And so they actually repealed it. And I'll say, it's good on them for being able to admit that they made a bad choice.
Right. A lot of companies wouldn't do that. So major props to Patreon for reverting to changes based on community feedback. It probably wasn't a good idea to make such a drastic switch that kind of hurt a lot of patrons' wallets a bit. But they reverted it, and everything's looking good again.
Yeah, I'll say I saw lots of people who posted about how many people, especially small supporters, were, they were hemorrhaging backers on some of them. But I have to say, you guys are just so freaking awesome that you did the opposite. Several of you actually upped your level of backing right after the announcement. I don't know if it was just happenstance or maybe you were like, I don't care. I'll show you how much I don't care. I'm going to double my pledge. And I was like, wow.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. Everyone's been so awesome about this. They've been constantly sharing this information with us. They're keeping us up to date. And a lot of you guys were actually really quite concerned for us and wanted to make sure that we were handled well by Patreon's new policies. So thank you so much. You guys are awesome. I cannot be more grateful.
Since they've repealed this change, if anyone else is interested in signing up, now's a great time when everybody's feeling all good vibesy about this situation.
Yeah. Good vibesy. That's the holiday season.
Yeah,
Thank you, Patreon, for not being a Scrooge.
All right, without further ado, let's go straight into our last-minute buyer's guide. And, let's almost look at this as a year in review, really. It's kind of a year in review of all the top, most interesting things that people want to get their hands on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's help you out.
And welcome to our 2017 last-minute gift guide for Nintendo Switch owners and future owners here. And we have a whole bunch of categories picked out, and we're going to go in depth about what you can possibly buy the various people you know, different Switch games, accessories, based on what kind of a gamer they may be.
Right, exactly. So if you're looking for a gift for that specific someone and you're not quite sure, go ahead and listen for the specific category that they might fit in, and we'll give you guys some recommendations based on that. Our planned format is to go over each specific category, give you guys some recommendations on what games, maybe give a little bit of a description of what the games are if they're a bit more obscure, and tell you why they would all fit for that category.
And I will just note that every item that we mention here, there will be direct links to the items on Amazon or wherever they're sold, so that you can just go and click in the show description the item you're interested in. And those will also be affiliate links, so if you want to help us out, that will also be great to click those affiliate links and buy these items through there if you can. Thank you. All right, so why don't we start off with people who are just starting off, new Switch owners.
All right, so yeah, I feel like if you're a new Switch, or if you're giving a gift to a new Switch owner, you really got to start with the essentials. You got to start with accessories.
Yes, I think even though it's something that I hadn't gotten for a long time, one of the most basic things, a lot of people, it's becoming more and more of a necessity for Switch owners now, is a memory card. I think that's one of the top items that you might want to get somebody.
Yes, it would be really good to note that the Nintendo Switch uses a micro SD card, so I would recommend getting a micro SD card for whoever you're gifting. Some people, whenever they get a new Switch, they're not really thinking about the built-in space of the unit, so memory isn't something they might think about. And it's good to alleviate that extra uncertainty with a memory card built in.
And especially considering how many games now are just purchasable from the eShop, you might get 5, 10 small games that add up, or you might just decide, you know what, maybe I don't need to get him the physical version. Maybe I'll just send him the eShop version of Zelda or something, and those will be pretty big files. It'll be nice to have a memory card to stick those in, rather than just rely on the system memory and then like deleting a game when you're not playing something.
Yeah, exactly. Now, moving on, another really good accessory that would be helpful would be extra controllers.
Yes.
If you definitely want to emphasize maybe multiplayer games, if this is a holiday event and you want to have your gifties Switch featured as an event for the gathering, more controllers, getting people to join in local co-op multiplayer fun. It's a good time.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, because this is going to probably be a gift for, several kids. Maybe you have 2 or more kids that will be playing this. You're going to want at least one extra Joy-Con, so you'll have 4 half controllers that can be used for certain 4-player games. And later on, we're going to note there's a section for specifically party games. And I think that a lot of people are going to look at this as this is my Christmas party system, or, we're going to have a good time with it, show it off to a lot of people. So yeah, at least one other Joy-Con, like full Joy-Con. Or, if you want to work in the budget, you might get 1 or 2 of the, like a Pro controller, or one of the cheaper options. I use the Hori controller, the Hori pad, which is considerably cheaper and could be a equally viable choice. Though, do look at what they each have. They all have different features added or missing. Like the Pro controller has everything. Obviously, the Joy-Con has everything except, but if you buy the cheaper options, it might not have motion controls. Or if you buy the Pokken controller, it doesn't have the joysticks. all those sort of things you'll have to figure out. Safest bet, another Joy-Con. And then a Pro Controller. A lot of people seem to be pretty universally in love with the Pro Controller, though.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, a really kind of unique and interesting gift that you can give to a new Switch owner is a dock sock.
Yeah,
this is not something. Yeah, this isn't something that people normally know about, but it's ironically a good stocking stuffer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, actually it is. That's a pretty perfect little stocking stuffer. They sell them on Etsy. They go from like $5 to $10. You can get, different custom options of them.
Now, if you don't know what a dock sock is, it's essentially kind of a cloth wrap that goes over your dock to show a really neat graphic to make it a little bit more interesting. Yeah. It's not a sticker. You don't stick it on. You actually just, cover the front part with a cloth sock.
Yeah, it's like a little sleeve. Yeah.
Yeah, it's essentially a sleeve. And they look really cool. A lot of them are homemade, so you can buy them on Etsy. They make really nice gifts, and I think it's a really good idea in general.
Yeah, actually, one of our old guests on the show, the first guest on the show, Alex, she messaged me. She just bought her Switch, and she's saying, hey, what do we do about, because she heard the rumors, even though I haven't really seen too much validation for this, the rumors about this dock scratching screens over time. And she says, what do people do? And I told her about dock socks. I sent her a link to Etsy, and she loved this, even if it wasn't for the protection. It's just a great way to customize your console in a very affordable and totally reversible way.
Right, exactly. Now, speaking of scratched screens, one of the recommendations would be to get a screen protector. It doesn't have to be tempered glass, so tempered glass is generally my personal favorite, but getting a screen protector for a Nintendo Switch would be a really good idea, especially if it's for someone that's intending to play the Switch on the go.
If you're going to get one, I definitely will say that the tempered glass ones are the way to go. They're a little more money, but if you can get them on appropriately, and if you don't have the patience to do it yourself, I believe you can go to Best Buy and you could pay someone like $10 to put it on perfectly for you. And they're pros. I have a couple of friends who work even in the Apple Store or at Best Buy that put on these screen protectors professionally, essentially. Also, another thing that's highly recommended if you have kids will not protect that screen as carefully as maybe they should. And so doing that, it's just it totally is invisible once it's on there, but it's just another skin. So when the kid inevitably puts it in his pocket with his keys and scratches something a little bit, it's not actually a permanent damage.
Yeah, exactly. It saved so many of my friends' Switch screens, and I think it's such a non-intrusive way to protect your Switch.
Now, I actually personally didn't use screen protectors, but I do use, one of the other things I like to suggest here is a Switch case. I have a couple of different ones for different types of trips I take throughout the day. The main one I use is just a flip case. It's just a little leather kind of a little harness that goes around the Switch. It's very inconspicuous, but it has a little leather flap that will cover the screen when it's not in use. So it kind of gives you that, DS clamshell closability to protect it. Whenever it's just, whenever you want to stick it in your backpack or something like that. It's good for day-to-day travel. Of course, there's bigger cases. I know you have a couple. I don't think they sell the what's it called? The Zelda Sheikah Slate one anymore, but right. There's lots of great options.
Right. There are a lot of Switch cases out there. There are some where you can just put the entire Switch in, and it usually has pouches to hold the cartridges in them and a little space for accessories. You can zip that up and put it in a backpack or carry it around, and your Switch will stay safe. There are so many Switches out there, Switch cases out there that you can choose from. Most of them are reliable. If you want to make sure it's the highest of quality to protect your Switch, you want to make sure that the Switch case, when you shake it, it doesn't jostle the Switch too much inside of it.
That's a good criteria to go by.
Right. So if it doesn't jostle the Switch inside of it too much, good Switch case, you can give it as a gift.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good. And one little thing, it's a nice little option. You can get these for like $5-10 also, is a little Switch stand, which is especially, again, going back to when we were talking about making it a family event or, sharing it with others. At home, obviously, you could do that in dock mode, but maybe you're bringing it to your aunties or something for, the family get together. Having a stand just to put it up and prop it up on makes it a lot easier for multiple people to kind of gather around and play some of these games we're going to talk about.
Right. I definitely know you can attest to the usefulness of a Switch stand since you've attended a lot of Switch fests where people would gather and play locally on the small screen.
Yeah. I mean, look, the Switch's kickstand is great. It's a fail-safe. It's functional like that. But, just that little height that it gives you, it makes it a lot easier. And it makes a difference in the presentation.
Right, exactly. I agree. As one last point, I definitely want to stress, if they're a new Switch owner, they have to have Zelda. It's not an accessory. We've been talking about accessories, but for when it comes to games, Zelda is pretty much a must-have.
Yeah, everybody who got a Switch day one almost unanimously bought Zelda with it. So it's just a game that goes beyond, like, if you're not that great at games, it's easy to still pick up and just have fun with in the world. And if you're hardcore, you go and you take on the biggest challenges in there. I think almost anybody will be able to enjoy this one.
Right. Now, to start us off on our first actual gaming category, we can discuss casual players and what gifts to get them.
Yeah, so these are people who just, they're not looking, maybe they're not people who are into games that are here to give them a challenge. They're not into games that are there to, like, test their skills or be intense and be great at. They're just people who maybe like to turn it on and to relax and just have a fun time without having to stress out too much about it.
Right, exactly. And I do think that this is a pretty wide array of people. A lot of players can be casual gamers, while they can be competitive or hardcore in their own way. Or some players are just casual players by themselves. I think this is a very big category, and it'll be helpful.
Yeah, totally.
Now, to start us off, I definitely would recommend Stardew Valley. A quintessential casual game, I think.
Yeah, it is the lowest pressure game. In fact, the only time people have ever told me they felt any kind of pressure in the game is that they just don't, like, the game is so laissez-faire and just lets you do whatever you want. They don't know what to do with all the options. And then eventually they get into groove and they find out what they like to do most. And then the game just kind of like, hey, you want to go in the mine today? Yeah, great. Go do some mining. Oh, just want to talk to people in town today and build up relationships? Great. That is fine by me. We are not going to pressure you into anything.
So if you don't know what Stardew Valley is, it's essentially a 2D pixel art farming simulator game. And it's kind of similar to the old Harvest Moon games of the past, where you essentially take care and expand your farm while also befriending the townsfolk in your area and attending to various events going on throughout the days within the game itself.
Yeah. And
I think it is such a great casual player experience. And you essentially form your own experience with the game, and it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, and I've been playing it. I've broken the 100-hour mark on this game, actually.
Oh, absolutely. It's not hard to do that. But the thing is, there's really no pressure to proceed to a certain degree. So those 100 hours of play were really self-motivated, weren't they?
Oh, totally. Anytime I had downtime, like if it was like 5 minutes or like in 4 hours, I would turn it on. I'd set my own goal. I'd be like, I want to go catch some wood. I'm looking to expand my house. So I'm going to spend a couple days of the game just logging and, maybe, I'm trying to marry that girl in town. I better it's her birthday coming up. Maybe I'll drop her a gift and move on and then just kind of take it as I want. And before I knew it, 100 hours went by and I'm still not done with it. And there's still updates coming. It's also for the price. It's like the best value on the Switch, honestly, right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a really great content for the value. So highly recommended Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
Though, on the same vein, I definitely want to bring up Golf Story for casual players. Golf Story, if you don't know what that is, it's essentially another 2D simulator type game, though it's a little bit more centered around role-playing a sports experience, which is specifically for golf.
Yeah. They do a fun little thing where, you go into different golf courses. There's a plot line, it has the RPG elements of like, we need you to go here and solve this problem, usually by some golf trick you can do or by winning a tournament. And it has a pretty decent golf mechanics to it, but they're very easy to pick up. And it's not just a golf game. There's plenty of other mini games and things that you do to break it up. So it's not like you're only playing golf. You can go around and there's like, frisbee golf that they play too. And there's mini golf and lots of other little things like digging around, trying to find extras. Fairly entertaining, and there's a lot of content in there, and it's a pretty cute little story too.
Right, and I do want to stress, even if you're not a fan of golf, this is a game that would appeal to anyone, really.
Yeah.
It's essentially a 2D RPG that uses golf as its gameplay mechanic, but it's not necessarily tied to it.
Right, yeah, exactly. Very, very easy and friendly for all. So yeah, one of my first games I actually picked up for here, was the first game I said was just like my relaxo kind of, fun, no punishment in it game, Snake Pass. This is a game where you play a snake who has to go around different maps, collecting items, trying to find the exit. There are no real punishment because the mechanics take a minute or two to get used to because you have to get used to the physics of being this snake that needs to slither around things in order to climb and how to use your physics to, wrap around and reach different nooks and crannies of the stages. But if you fall off a cliff or you fall into a trap or something like that, you just go right back to your last checkpoint, which is, probably a few feet away, and you try it again. And before you know it, you're just naturally pulling off lots of cool moves in a very relaxed environment, cool, tropical island music playing. And there's even an easy mode that you could switch on by hitting a button where the bird picks up your tail and makes you a little lighter. So it's not a hard game unless you want it to be, because there are challenging items to grab, but they're not essential.
Right, exactly. I believe this game doesn't even have a timer to complete each stage. And a lot of the time you're really just motivating yourself to proceed forward and get as much of the collectibles within a stage as possible. It's up to you to decide how deep you want to delve with Snake Pass.
Yeah. Oh, and I wish I knew this when I first played it, but if you just play it at the bare minimum and beat the game by finding the 3 required items each stage, when you beat the game, you get the snake vision that lets you see where all the hidden items are, and that makes going back to collect everything a lot easier.
Yeah, so Snake Pass is definitely recommended.
Yeah, very charming art.
A game that might be casual, might be a little bit aggravating based on who you're playing with, is Snipper Clips.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend Snipper Clips if you haven't heard of it before. It's essentially a 2D platforming puzzle game where you play with a local co-op partner to solve various, platforming problems within the stage that you're in.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit of fun, actually.
This is the game, someone asked me what I played with my family during Thanksgiving. This was actually the game that I played most of with the kids who are interested in getting a Switch. I think this game has good potential for kids. Again, if you have 2 or 3, this could play up to 4 people at once also. It's a good game for teaching new players cooperation and getting kids to figure something out and work together rather than competing with each other. And I liked watching my little cousins slowly learn how not to kill each other all the time. Not you kill each other, but you can sabotage each other kind of if you mess around too much. But then they slowly learned okay, we have to work together. How do I communicate without being a jerk? And it came out to some pretty good results. So I thought this is a fun game for, especially youngins too.
Well, I definitely feel like this is a good fit for casual players just because there isn't necessarily a timer. There isn't necessarily any pressure to proceed within the level. You're just there, you and your partner, figuring out the puzzle together at whatever pace you want. And once you figure it out together, it's a really feel good moment.
Yeah.
You move on to the next stage, and bam, keep going.
And actually, you can. Plenty of people have talked about replaying stages and finding new ways to do the same puzzle. There is no one answer, so it does have great replayability and just being like, how else can I do this? What other weird ways can I try to beat this stage?
Right, exactly. See, it's just about, having self-motivation, figuring out how you want to play a game.
It does
pace.
work one player, but it's best at 2 or more players. That's when it's like really the most fun.
Right. And lastly, for casual players, I gotta bring up Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
What makes Mario Kart 8 actually really great casual is the fact, and this is something that people complained about when it came out, everything's unlocked, and you don't have to even play like the competitive modes to get everything out of it. You can just go and play by yourself, any difficulty level. Everyone gets it. You want to play with friends, you don't even have to worry about being competitive because the game is already balanced that like it's impossible to really dominate. There's the way the weapons are distributed. You'll be able to catch up. So it's not a game where you have to worry about being great at Mario Kart. You just kind of play competently, and if you want, you turn on the assist modes to make it easy, even for people who have no clue how to play these games. The game will help you play it so that you can still feel like you're pretty good and and able to hang with the big boys.
Right, exactly. Now, for the next category, we can definitely go to the opposite end of that spectrum and talk about competitive gamers.
Yes, the people who desire battle, who are looking to crush opponents and want to have something with a high skill ceiling so that you can feel accomplished because you've put in time to get good at these games.
Yeah, get good. Now, to start us off, I definitely want to bring out one of our personal favorite games of the Switch, Pokken Tournament DX.
Yes.
Now, if you haven't played Pokken Tournament DX before, it is essentially Pokemon the fighting game in a 3D plane. You essentially fight one-on-one against an opponent in 3D mode, switching over to 2D mode for various duel phases. And it's a lot of fun. It's quite competitive, and there are a lot of tournament scenes for this game, Casey.
Yeah. And I've mentioned that I've had trouble getting a lot of people to play it online, but there are other groups out there, and there's a lot of tournaments in the city that I've been able to visit to play people. I try to get like the Discord people because it's our community, so I try to play them whenever I can. But for the real good to challenge, there are those tournaments out there. But
right.
It's not hard to get into, and it is the kind of game that even if you're not like super competitive, but you kind of want to learn to be competitive, this is a great game to bring you to that level. Because I've never played a fighting game seriously before. This is the first time a game made me feel like I can get to the skill ceiling, or not. I'm getting there. I'm not like top tier yet, but I feel like it gives you all the steps you need to get out of noob zone.
Right. And it's a bit of an anomaly because you look at it and you think that it's a Pokemon game. It can't possibly be competitive. But no, this is a fighting game with just the right amount of depth and diverse character pool that would really keep things interesting in the long run.
Yeah,
so,
and we both we lauded it for having great balance, and pretty much every character is viable. There is no like the difference between quote unquote god tier and the low tier characters is so minimal that you really don't have to even consider that when picking who to like master.
Yes, exactly. Now on a somewhat different speed, how about Rocket League? I would definitely recommend Rocket League for competitive gamers as well.
Yeah, this is funny because this is one of those games that people enjoy playing casually without thinking about it, but the people who play it seriously and regularly do get good and do get into the competition. I mean, that's why this game's been around as long as it has been, is because that competitive scene is so strong, and the skill cap is surprisingly high for a game that, if you explain it to someone, it seems almost like a joke.
Yeah, if you guys haven't played or heard of Rocket League before, where have you been living all this time? But to describe what it is, it's essentially a 3D soccer game where you control a car in 2v2, 3v3 maps. And you're essentially just trying to hit that ball into the opponent's goal.
Like a giant soccer ball that's like 10 times,
Yes.
yeah, it's like 5 times bigger than your car, but you jump around, you jump off of like these ramps on the sides, and you can slam it, and you can boost around, and since there's so many things flying around, you might think you have a clear shot on the goal, but then you don't realize someone else is just flying across the field, and they knock into the ball without you recognizing them, and it can be mayhem, but it's mayhem tempered by the skill of the players.
Right, exactly. And it's very heavily physics-based, so being able to hit the ball in just the right angle while considering the placement of both your teammates and your opponents can get really competitive. There's a reason why Rocket League has a major esports scene right now. And I'm so happy that such a prominent esports game is present on the Switch.
Yes. Now, speaking with cars here, I did want to make sure there was at least one racing game on here, and you played only one I could think of that you played rather seriously this year.
It's Fast RMX. So Fast RMX is a high-speed, lightning-fast racing game that's kind of similar to the classic F-Zero games. This is just one of those really fast, frenzied racing games that I can get so hardcore with. I really, really love the pace and the speed and just how intense the racing experience gets for this.
Yeah. And like all the other games on this competitive list here, it does have a solid online competition support, right?
Yes, it does. I can play multiplayer competitively online with this game, and it's just a ton of fun. I have a lot of excitement and aggravation just trying to beat really strong players online.
And that is something I just want to reiterate there. All these games, yeah, it's very easy to just go, and even if you don't have a tournament nearby or a friend who wants to play you or who's on your level to play, they all have great online connectivity and ranked modes and ways to find people who are your level and give you the challenge that you're craving to improve your game.
Now, I do think the number one big competitive game that we have for the Nintendo Switch right now is Splatoon 2.
Yeah, Splatoon 2, I guess that we'll mention this is also the only game here, though, that we have that's team-focused. I mean, you can play Rocket League as a team also, but it has... but I think Splatoon 2 is the game that thrives most from having, 3 friends, or 1 friend even, who is going to learn with you, and it's really not about having one good player. It's about having people who know how to mesh and work together.
Right. If for whatever reason you don't know what Splatoon is, it's essentially a third-person shooting game that essentially has you shooting out ink from your gun to fill the map your color. And the non-competitive objective is to fill the field with as many colors as possible. The ranked modes have modes where you need to fill the fields with your color in certain areas or trying to fulfill different competitive conditions. And it's just a ton of fun. And there are so many tournament modes for this game.
Yes, right. There's a lot of different modes that you can get good at. So maybe then they just released a new one this last week, actually, the Clam Blitz mode. So there's a lot of ways to keep the challenge fresh. There's a lot of different ways to master. You can master your given weapon of choice so you have a different role on your team, which I love having. I love being able to say, like, I'm going to be the Guardian character, and I'm just going to, use my Splatling gun to make sure I, defend our turf while the others go on the assault. Or you want to be the sneaky paintbrush guy who sneaks around and samurai slashes people.
Or you can be another character that prioritizes spreading out ink as much as possible to make sure that the mobility of your teammates are good. Or you can even be a support character that prioritizes spreading shields to your teammates while they go out and assault and you follow behind. It's just a ton of fun. If you like games kind of like Overwatch, but want to stick with the Nintendo Switch platform and want quite a bit of diversity and, frankly, a lot of style, Splatoon 2 is a great choice.
Yeah, especially if you're, maybe you're competitive, but you're not want to kill opponents. There are plenty of people who, like JV said, they're not there you can win a game, but die more often than you take out your opponents, because covering the area or capturing objectives is way more important than that.
Right, exactly. It's quite a bit of fun. It's one of the games where it is very easy to grasp the basic concept of, and it's not hard to jump in and pick up. But if you want to get competitive, there's a lot of depth for you. Yeah. I'm definitely a fan of Splatoon 2 for this category.
Yeah. Maybe worth getting more than one copy if you have more than one person who wants to be on a team, or maybe get one for yourself and get one for a friend so you both can play it together.
Right.
All right, so this was actually an interesting category you threw in here. Gaming illiterate players, people who just aren't, super familiar with the language of gaming, who maybe never even played Mario Brothers or anything like that, and maybe this is their first system. It doesn't necessarily be a young person. It could be someone like your uncle or your dad, and you just want to give him something to keep him busy on the train, or maybe he spends a lot of downtime at work and you want to give him something and pack him with a Switch that has a game that's super accessible to someone who maybe never played a game like this before.
Right, exactly. Honestly, I had a friend who inspired this particular category. He purchased a Switch for his 70-year-old grandma.
Wow.
Yeah, he wanted to give her something to do during the day that's not necessarily just sitting around. So, yeah, he took to giving his grandma a Switch and trying to find games to give her to play. And I think this would be a category that's pretty decent for that.
Yeah, okay. And I think you started off this list with what is more universal than chess?
Exactly.
Most people know the general rules, and Chess Ultra is a great chess option for the Switch with a beautiful 3D presentation. It has, all the different challenge levels, and then it has the online capability if you want to find, other players who you want to, challenge and have several different games running at the same time. Chances are they'll know chess, and then they'll be able to play.
Absolutely. Yes, but even that, Chess Ultra is a really great start, because the people who are gaming illiterate, it's really easy for them to grasp how to control chess, how to move pieces from here to there. Now, all you need to do as the person that's teaching a gaming illiterate player would be to teach them how to navigate the menu in order to start up the chess game. Mm-hmm. And something like Chess Ultra is perfect for that, because you don't necessarily have to explain the rules, but you can be there to explain how to get to play.
Right. And it uses a lot of the touch controls, which is going to make actually manipulating the game a lot easier. I mean, anyone uses an iPad these days because they're just so easy to, pick up, and you figure it out by just touching the screen what to do.
Now, on that same note, with ease of controls but really needing to teach the menus, Picross S.
Yeah, Picross is a very popular...
Picross.
Yeah, I've never heard it said out loud actually by too many people, so it could be. I think it's Picross, but it's a nice. If anyone who likes puzzle games, I know a lot of people who they're addicted to either crosswords or Sudoku or those sort of things. This kind of feels like a Sudoku, but it's like a 3D Sudoku puzzle. And once they've gotten the grasp of the general mechanics of these puzzles, they will probably catch on, and they have a near infinite supply of these little brain challenging puzzles to take on. They're fun to occupy, and at the end of it, you don't just have, I've solved this Sudoku with a bunch of numbers. You will make a image of some sort or a little statuette that you'll recognize at the end, and you're like, oh, cool, that is my reward for completing this Picross.
Right. There's really a good sense of accomplishment when you complete one of these puzzles. It is essentially a matrix puzzle that you're filling out a pixel-weighted graphic with. And the controls are very simple. and it's honestly one of the best games to play with illiterate players. Even if this is your Switch, you're sitting next to an illiterate player, and you're just trying to figure out the puzzle together, this is it. It's a great option too.
I feel uncomfortable not using gaming illiterate player. Like, just saying illiterate player feels so
gaming illiterate.
Like, it just feels
so
like
insulting.
It feels a little more insulting. It's like borderline. It's borderline insulting when you say gaming illiterate, but just saying illiterate players now makes them sound a little one level down.
But yes, the Picross S is a great game for gaming illiterate players.
There you go.
Gaming illiterate players.
Yes. Now, this one here that you put on here, I totally agree with, because honestly, probably the biggest bridge of any game and the greatest reach of anything is Tetris. Tetris is like the video game that even the most, gaming illiterate person has a concept of. And it's pure addictiveness is what's going to force someone who, even if they don't grasp it right away, once they get a little bit into it, just that obsession of Tetris forces people to continue. So I'm specifically speaking about Puyo Puyo Tetris. And
right.
You can ignore the story mode for these people. They can ignore the Puyo mode even until maybe they're ready for that down the line. But I think just playing it and showing them how to activate the basic endless Tetris mode is a great start. And then it has packed in there, the Puyo to try out something else. There's the hybrid modes if they really want to get crazy. Or maybe they want to try the story mode if you don't think that super saccharine, cutesy anime story will turn them off. If that's something that they might enjoy, then that's also packed in there too.
Yes, but I know a lot of gaming illiterate players that understand Tetris. If you can remind them and instruct them how to navigate the menus to get to the standard Tetris mode, it's a really good way for those gaming illiterate players to get used to using the Joy-Cons to control the screen or what's happening in the game. And from there, you can possibly transition to a bit more involved games.
Yeah. And I mentioned this before, I think Mario Kart Deluxe actually does work in this category too, because of those assist modes. You don't even have to tell them it's on. Like I said, you could just put it on, and between steering assist and acceleration assist modes, the person really doesn't have to be that knowledgeable of what they're doing. They just kind of have to, they get enough control where they feel like they're playing, and they're it's like training wheels. And before they know it, they'll start noticing that those modes are on when they're getting good. Like, they'll notice, hey, how come I can't turn off the road? I wanted to go off the road there. And then you could turn it off when they've reached that level. But those training wheels will get them, Mario Kart by itself is probably like the most hardcore of these games on this list we just put here. But I think it does have enough of a smooth gap that it might bring them up to level in time.
Right, absolutely. I have very gaming illiterate parents, and I was actually able to get them to play Mario Kart to a pretty competent level. They used Mario Kart, and they understand the basic concept of controlling the stick to move the direction somewhat, and holding down A to accelerate. Now, I did have to remind them a couple of times to press the L button in order to use your item. There's a little item thing that you can use. But other than that, it worked really well. They were able to understand the basic concept of racing. The visuals are interesting enough where people really wouldn't get bored even just looking at the game. And
a lot of stages.
Yeah, even my mom, who just is bad at games. She doesn't play games. She's an older lady that doesn't play games. She won second place sometimes. So that's Mario Kart for you. It's something I would recommend in the situation quite a lot.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, moving on to Young Gamers in Training. As I mentioned before, I'll just recap very quickly. I mentioned Snipper Clips. It is a good game, I think, for younger people. It's problem-solving skills, and again, I thought it's great for teaching cooperation and getting people to have a little patience with each other, and I will say I did see a little bit of alpha gamer mentality happening in one time when I was watching my cousins play it, and she was like, "Give me your controller," and I just had to step in and say, "No, don't take his controller. You overcome this by just talking and communicating with him."
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because you're not directly competing with each other. This is a purely co-op game, and it's really good to get that ingrained into the young gamers' mindset early on. I think it's a good life lesson as well as a fun experience for someone that's quite young.
I also always see kids playing Minecraft. The Switch version of it is perfectly good option there. It's great on that screen. It's just the Legos of today. It really is the Lego build whatever you want thing. And every kid I know who's picked this up has been spending many dozens of hours building whole worlds and houses and going online and with their friends and adventuring in those things together. So yeah, Minecraft Switch Edition is probably the most constructor kind of toy you can get them.
Right, exactly. It really allows a young gamer to explore their imagination and build whatever creation they want, work towards their creation if they want to explore that mode. And in survival mode, you can even perhaps try to defend your creations and your buildings. That's true. So this is you're right. This is very popular for young kids. And the fact that this is a portable console, multiplayer possible console game is very, very big. If the young gamers have friends who own Switches, now they can all play Minecraft together, and that's a really good time for them.
Oh, it is a good time to mention also, though, you just reminded me, there are, especially if you're buying a Switch or the games for the young people and you're on your shopping list, there is the parental control options. Do not overlook those. Make sure you just check them out. I'm not going to go into detail. There's a whole video showing what you could do, but maybe you don't want your kids to play either certain games or be able to go online with other people. It's just something to be aware exists to help you, relax and make sure whoever you're buying these games for is, safe.
Speaking of Legos, I guess we can go over Lego City Undercover. Now, you played this game, Casey.
Yes, I did. I did say that I personally didn't like it, but my dislikes were because I felt it was too easy and too hand-holdy. But that's not going to be a problem if you're buying this for your 5 to 10-year-old to play with. That's perfect for them. Everything about this game was perfect for a kid to play. It's got the humor, it's got the freedom to explore and just start finding challenges wherever, jump into any car. The stages are pretty fun to explore, and combat is super simple, and there's really no chance to lose anything in it. You could just very easily accomplish anything.
It's definitely one of those games where you can actually play co-op with maybe your child or maybe your friend's child or maybe a younger relative. You can play co-op with them. And with that in mind, this isn't a game that will entirely bore you or completely disinterest you from the get-go, because there is stuff that is meant to appeal to the adults playing with their friendly children.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, playing this with either your kid or having two siblings play and not, again, helping each other, not competing and not being able to damage each other, makes it a great game for that situation.
Now, Lego City Undercover is an open world exploration Lego game. Going back to the more classic beat 'em up style Lego game, we have Lego Marvel Superheroes 2.
Yeah, this is just another flavor on the same kind of gameplay, right? This is just like the Lego one, but instead of the open world GTA style of gameplay, this is more, here's a level, beat up bad guys until you hit the end.
But what really appeals to young players is the Marvel superheroes genre and theme of the game.
Yeah.
There are so many Marvel heroes that are featured in these games. Even from the cover itself, you can see Spider-Man, Hulk, you can see Spider-Gwen, you can see Rocket Raccoon and Groot. The classic Avengers are in here. X-Men, they're all in here. It's a ton of fun. it's one of those games that are actually really popular with adults as well because of just the sheer breadth of nostalgia you can get playing with these characters. It does have a story and it does have voice acting, so that could be a fun experience to play with your young gamers as well. And then lastly for this section, I definitely want to recommend Rocket League. It's one of those games where you can really just go into a game, hit a ball around. It'll be a lot of fun. It's really good for that.
Yeah. All right. So Switch veterans are our next category. These are the people who, I guess these are people who are a little more experienced, who've had it for a while. Obviously they're familiar with the system. Maybe they have the biggest, most well-known titles, and we're trying to find the games that are great, but maybe weren't people's first purchases of the year. But there's still ones really worth playing.
Now, to start them off, I definitely recommend Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. That is a 3D tactics game that's merging the Mario franchise with the Rabbids franchise. Now, this is something that a lot of people really kind of dismissed pretty early, just because the thought of a Mario and Rabbids crossover didn't seem like a good idea.
Yeah.
But we ended up with a very funny quality product, and I really recommend it for someone who likes Mario and owns the Switch.
Yeah, and if they just beat Mario Odyssey, and you think they're even if they're not totally in the mindset of like a strategy game, if they even are into anything that's more of a thinky or less action-based gameplay, they'll probably enjoy this as their next title.
Now, something that's really in-depth and something that people can sink their teeth into is Elder Scrolls Skyrim. Skyrim's been released in so many platforms. It's a first-person RPG open world that lets you do so much, and emphasizes quite a bit of exploration in the game.
Yeah.
If you don't know what Skyrim is, go look it up. It's very in-depth, and I would recommend this to anyone who likes RPGs.
Yeah. Big action RPG with so much customization in both your character, skill sets, how you play it, what you do. It's just, an endless kind of experience there.
Yes. It was easy to miss because of just the release date.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, its release date, right around Mario Odyssey.
And on that same vein, Fire Emblem Warriors is another really easy game to miss because it was just packed into that time frame where we just got a bunch of heady hitters in a row within weeks of each other.
Yeah, totally.
It is a Warriors style game, so think Dynasty Warriors, Gundam Warrior, Samurai Warriors, where you're a big warrior fighting multitudes of enemies, but using the Fire Emblem theme, and it fits that theme quite perfectly. If you're a Musou fan, if you're a Fire Emblem fan, you're going to really enjoy this game.
Yeah, plus all the little strategy elements that you kind of seal the deal and make this more than just hack and slash your way to victory. It's, a little bit of thinking, a little bit of, using tactics and to feel like a real battlefield commander. Very engaging in that way.
Right, exactly. I especially like this game because it does allow for local co-op too.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you want to play a game local co-op and you don't necessarily want to do something as calm as Snipper Clips, I feel like Fire Emblem Warriors is a really good pick.
Yeah. I also just wanted to throw in Doom here because it's just such a, it's probably, it might be the first person shooter of the Switch right now. It is the probably the most action oriented and hardcore FPS experience on there. It has a really good lineage. It has the crazy, demonic setting if you're into that. And it's just the kind of game that there's not much like it on the Switch yet. So it could be just something to fill in one more genre in someone's collection who might not have, picked anything up like it.
It's also quite a technical marvel on the Nintendo Switch. It looks really good, has a very solid 30 frames per second graphics display on this game. And it's one of the few Switch games that are really, really mature and really adult. It has a very in-depth hefty multiplayer experience, and the campaign itself is definitely nothing to scoff at.
Yeah.
So highly recommended for Switch vets. It was very easy to miss.
Okay, so now we're going to move into not just veterans of the Switch, but just gaming veterans, old school gamers in general, people who might have had like an NES and this is just their latest system, something to bring a little of that nostalgia to the new system. And there's a lot of good choices here, so we can't go in depth into them as much as the others, but we can definitely throw out a lot of great options for like these old school gamers in your life.
Yes. To start off, I definitely want to recommend the Mutant Mudds collection. KC,
Yeah.
you played this one quite heavily.
I played this on 3DS originally, and I did play it on Switch. It is just it's not a literal old school game, but it is one of these modern games that has the trappings of it feels like it totally could have been a 2D platformer from the 80s, and you're a little dude, little science guy with a gun, little mutant monsters that come around, and you have to jump, and you jump into the background and the foreground, you go into pipes and you collect things. But it's really well done. It has a great soundtrack, great chip tunes, and it just feels like you could be tricked into thinking this was a game that was made back in the day with just great level design from those times.
Now, for a game that's literally coming from the past,
Yes.
Namco Museum is something I would recommend as well. There are quite a number of incredibly classic games in this compilation. There's Pac-Man, there's Galaga, Splatterhouse, Sky Kid, Tank Force, Tower of Druaga. These are all classics.
Yeah.
And what I love most about Namco Museum is that you can play this in vertical mode, so you can really feel like it's an arcade experience again. So for those old school gamers that want to relive that old experience, Namco Museum is perfect.
Yeah. Also, I mean, what's an arcade without Street Fighter? That is the king of the arcades throughout the 80s and 90s.
That's Ultra Street Fighter 2, the final challengers, available on the Switch.
Yeah.
It's such a good way to bring people who used to love fighting games back in the day into the Switch.
Right, and it has the online multiplayer, so there's that option to actually get opponents, because that's really, you need to have people to play with, and a lot of the fighting game options that are out there, even like the Neo Geo ones that are there, since they don't have online capabilities, you're going to just be playing the computer, which will kind of steal a lot of the thunder from them. So this is probably one of the best options for a old school fighting game, even though the price is considerably higher than some of the other fighting games that are out there right now.
Right. And what people will like is that you have the option to switch from the original Street Fighter 2 graphics to the more modern, streamlined, smoothened out graphics.
Yes.
So you can really get your retro nostalgia from this game.
Now, I will note, they did just announce that next year they're going to be releasing a Street Fighter 2 collection with like a whole bunch of Street Fighter games in one cart. And so if that is something that you think that they are going to want, and if they're really hardcore Street Fighter fans, maybe hold off on this if you can for then. But if they're just someone who was a fan of the game and you think they'll get a lot of use out of this, then you can pick this up for sure.
Right. I definitely agree with that. Now, I also want to recommend on the same breath, Sonic Mania.
Yeah.
Sonic Mania is classic Sonic, except it's not. Sonic Mania is new stages built with old school Sonic nostalgia, built similarly to the original Genesis games. If you look at a screenshot of Sonic Mania, it looks like one of the old Genesis games, but all of the stages are, newer, more modern takes on what you used to love about the franchise.
Yeah, it has all level design that made them feel fast, exciting, and it just has all the controls, and it feels like just a crisper, up-to-date version without any of the bugs or little graphical glitches that might have been from back in the day.
What I love about Sonic Mania is that they even have a little toggle for you to turn on CRT mode. You can essentially replicate scan lines just to get that full nostalgia feeling, but you can tell there was so much love and care about this product. A lot of the biggest complaints about Sonic is that 3D Sonic kind of doesn't feel like Sonic anymore, but this definitely feels like the classic Sonics.
Yeah. Other games that are, again, modern day iterations, things that look like old school games, but they're new and they have a lot of new sensibilities. We had Kamiko, which was a very affordable, was like $5 action, top-down action game.
Right. It's very much on the same vein as Zelda. It has very similar elements to the classic Legend of Zelda top-down games, though it's condensed into a bit more bite-sized sections. So it's not quite as long, but it has that same feel.
Cave Story Plus, that's probably my personal favorite on this list right here, because it is a great pixel art side-scrolling action game, a little bit of Metroidvania, not really the storyline of it, and there is a pretty good storyline in here. Does just guide you through all the different locations as you have to get to them from one to the next. And there's this great weapon system, lots of different ways to play through the game based on which weapons you choose to keep or trade in at certain points in the game, including some plot twists that will happen based on decisions you make, and it made it good replayability. And this version came with a lot of extra modes, challenge stages that can draw out the gameplay even after you've beaten the story on the hardest mode. And it's just a ton of fun with a lot of heart, a lot of great music too.
Right. Now, on that same note, I also want to recommend Shovel Knight, which is a 2D side-scrolling game that mixes old school platforming with new school game design choices. It's a lot of really solid platforming gameplay with a persistent world and quite a bit of humor. I found this game to be really funny. The characters are charming as well, and it's just overall cool. There's a reason why this game has gotten really popular, and I cannot recommend Shovel Knight enough.
I think the way I like to describe Shovel Knight is it's Mega Man if he used a melee weapon.
That's a pretty good way to put it. Mega Man with melee weapons. It does have a few more RPG elements, but that's just unique to its own thing. I really like it.
And of course, one of the first ones again that we played, Blaster Master Zero. More than just bringing Blaster Master into the modern day, they fixed everything that was kind of a real qualm we had with the original Blaster Master for NES, updated the graphics, gave it a lot more style, just made it the game we wanted it to be way back in the day. And there's so many downloadable content updates for it, for multiplayer, competitive modes, different characters to play through it. I mean, you'll get a lot of mileage out of this game, and it's just a fun blast to jump around in your shooting tank and even get out and go. It has a lot of great versatility in the action.
Right. And if you definitely know that the person you're giving this gift to was an NES fan, and perhaps they were a big fan of Blaster Master, the original, showing off that there is a Blaster Master sequel might be a good selling point for the Switch as well.
True.
So, yeah, I definitely recommend Blaster Master Zero. It's very heavily recommended.
All right, so narrative-driven games. Here's for our people who like to treat their games like books because they want to absorb a storyline.
Now, to start off, we definitely prioritized the narrative. If this game really emphasizes story, you should definitely pick up one of these games. However, this category has a wide breadth of gameplay styles that I think is actually quite interesting.
Yeah, not just RPGs, though we are going to lead with an RPG.
Right. To start off, I definitely want to bring up Xenoblade Chronicles 2. This is a hardcore RPG, but the story is a very big basis for it. You guys know how JRPGs are incredibly involved and have really long winding stories. Well, this is Nintendo's take on a JRPG.
Yeah. Really, and I know you're very big on not giving away spoilers, so you're just going to kind of leave it at that it's a super...
I'll definitely leave it at that.
Super in-depth RPG. And we just talked about it for over 30 minutes last episode. Just listen to our last episode if you really want to know more about it.
Yes, exactly.
On a more compact size is I Am Setsuna. This was a remake of an RPG that came out on previous consoles before, but And some people complain that it's too short, but I put it on here in case that's something that you want in a game that you're giving someone. Maybe they don't necessarily want to spend 60 hours on a game. Maybe you want something they can beat in 20 to 40 hours. It has a great Chrono Trigger style of a combat system that once people kind of understand, it really pays off. I love the art direction. I like the setting. It's a different kind of setting with a very snowy environment that's everywhere. It's not like snow is just like one place you stop by. It's like that's actually where the whole action takes place. And it's a pretty great story about saving this girl's life who's supposed to be a sacrifice, and it has a lot of emotion to it. So I really appreciated the heart of I Am Setsuna.
Right, and now regarding the next game, I would highly recommend for a narrative-driven gamer, L.A. Noire. If you don't know already, L.A. Noire is essentially Grand Theft Auto mixed with Phoenix Wright. It's a third-person, noir-based detective game. Yes, you're playing as Cole Phelps, who is a detective that's trying to solve crimes within Los Angeles. It's set in the 1940s, and it really immerses you in the world.
I'm also going to throw in there, and I was surprised that I actually liked this and treated this as serious a story as I did, but Minecraft Story Mode, this is one of the Telltale games. It's, has all the same kind of gameplay as any of those Telltale, story games where you make decisions in what you say, and it's like a choose your own adventure novel, but it's set in the Minecraft world. It treats its logic, very seriously. Like, this is how this world is, where people build things out of blocks. And, I will say though, I love the voice acting. People are split on whether Patton Oswalt is a voice that they like or not, but I kind of enjoy him in this role and all the others. And I think that they actually, there are some great things they tap into from the universe there. Like the Endermen, honestly, the Endermen are really scary in the way they're presented in this game. And I think they're a great twist on classic zombies. And I got through several chapters, and you can beat a chapter in one commute if you spend 30 minutes on it on a train ride or something. And it's great bite-sized pieces to play as a portable little story thing. Of course, there's plenty of Telltale games that you could choose from. We have the Batman one coming out soon, or that just came out. So any of the Telltale games will fill a narrative bite, but I was very fond of the Minecraft version.
Right. Yes. The Telltale games are really great for narrative-driven gamers because it is essentially just a storybook that you play. Mm-hmm. There's not as much action or movement or any extraneous RPG elements. It is almost purely narrative with a few inputs here and there.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of picking the one that has the right level of serious and humor. I like the humor in the Minecraft one. It was a little more lighthearted, and I dug it.
But there are lots of options that you can choose from based on who you're giving the gift to.
Yeah. All right, so party gamers, these are people, honestly, who maybe don't even play the games often, but when they have people over, they want to play something that's 4-player or just gets the whole room kind of excited about stuff. And I think this is one of the things that Switch really excels at, is enabling party games where everyone can kind of take part, or at least 4 people at a time can take part in something fun at the same time.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. To start us off, I want to recommend the Jackbox Party Pack.
Yes.
This is a ton of fun, and I believe streamers actually play Jackbox quite a bit.
There's 4 of them now already on the Switch. You can get Jackbox Party Pack 1, 2, 3, 4. They all have different sets of games that you play in them. So there's a lot of options, whether you're looking for more trivia-based ones or ones that have other little party games going on with them. And they're all pretty entertaining in different ways.
Now, what's unique about Jackbox Party Pack is that you can actually play multiplayer without controllers.
That's right.
All you need to do is connect your phone or your tablet to their online, their little infrastructure,
yeah.
And it lets you play multiplayer right from the get-go. You don't have to worry about controllers since people have smartphones and know how to use it. it's something that it's really easy for them to understand and get into the groove with.
Yeah, they use it in some pretty clever ways. Like they use it in some of the games to like give certain players secret messages that others can't see, and that's how some of these games play out. Like you might have special instructions for a game. Like kind of like like Spyfall. Think of it as like one of the games is like Spyfall, the board game, where everyone's playing a sort of game or knows something. One person doesn't know like the common thing that everyone else is, and everyone has to figure out who at the table, who playing this right now, doesn't know what's going on, is just trying to fake it.
Right, and they even have like a Pictionary mode where you just draw on your phone and it plays like Pictionary. It's a ton of fun. This is a game I highly recommend for parties.
I'm gonna just throw out.
It was built for that genre.
I'm just gonna throw out there. I haven't played this in a couple of years, but Just Dance is generally a great party game. You get people doing silly moves in your house. So Just Dance 2018 just came out. So that's a fine choice for anyone who just wants to make people do silly stuff in their living rooms.
Right. Now, I also want to recommend Super Bomberman R. Bomberman is an amazing multiplayer game because the concept is so simple. You control Bomberman within a map, you move around, you drop a bomb, you blow things up.
Yep, 4 players at a time, and even if you want, you could set it so that even when you're knocked out of a game, you have something to do and you could antagonize the people who killed you. Yeah,
Bomberman is a classic game. Some people know Bomberman from old school games, and this would be easy for them to pick up. But even if they don't, it's very easy to explain the concept. It's very easy to get really fun with it, and the maps can get really kooky, and some random stuff happens all the time.
Kooky.
You might accidentally die from your own bomb, and that's just part of the fun.
And then I wanted to throw out there actually what looked to me like one of the most exciting ones. It's really crazy, but I would only play this in 4-player mode. It is not nearly as fun any other way. Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time. This is it's kind of like FTL in that you are in a spaceship and there are different stations and each one activates a different function of the ship. So there's a gun turret on each end. Your ship is like a sphere, and there's a gun turret at each of the sides of it. So there's 4 guns, and there's a engine that can rotate around. There's a shield that you can use to block things, and to activate any of them, a player has to move their character to its station to take control of it. So even though there's 4 players, you can only actually be activating those 4 of the 6 or so different stations at a time. So you have to kind of communicate who's going to get the front guns. Is someone controlling the shields? All right, who's going to be navigator for this part and try to steer us through here? If you need to check the map, someone has to actually go to the map con and check where you're going, if you're even going in the right direction on the map. And it's pretty crazy. And it has this really crazy psychedelic setting. It kind of reminds me of Katamari Damacy in space with like all different like alien animals and stuff.
Right. Yeah, the colors are so vivid and bright, and it actually looks really appealing and fun.
Yes, but I do note, if you don't think you're going to play this 4-player that much, or you plan on playing it like 1 or 2-player, it's a lot more complicated. It's a lot more stressful. 4 players, it just flows better, and if you have some people who are willing to work together on it, it's an incredibly crazy experience.
Yes, I would recommend this as well.
All right, so portable gamers in general, people who are going to be taking their system out and about, what do they need to really kind of enhance that portable play that they're going to be using this Switch for?
Now, I definitely want to start off with a battery pack.
Yeah.
There have been initial complaints on the Switch that the battery doesn't last as long as they could, and this is generally resolved by having a portable battery around to charge your Switch if need be. There are certain requirements, like you really want to make sure that you get a quick charging 3.0 power bank, since that would have enough power to charge up a Nintendo Switch even while you're playing it. You're directly playing it. So a portable battery pack, you can get one, a quick charge, but it's highly recommended for portable gamers.
All right. And I was looking around for this solution. I've always kind of complained that like last Christmas I got my Bluetooth headphones, and the Switch does not let them connect to it. So I try to find any options people might have to adapt these to it. And I did actually find a very interesting post on Reddit, someone who kind of hacked, they do make little thing that can connect to the headphone jack of the Switch, and it kind of acts as a connector, a Bluetooth connector for the headphones. But this guy on Reddit actually, and I'll link to his description, has a very cool system where he bought a Bluetooth adapter for the Switch, and then he also even stuck a little Velcro thing on the back of the Switch so that it attaches smoothly to the back of the Switch, and it just kind of integrates into its body like that. So I'm going to say, if you're interested in maybe doing a little craftiness or getting this whole little setup, I'm going to link to both the Bluetooth headphone adapter, along with the Velcro strips that they attach there, and the little wire connector that you need there. But it might be a little craftiness, but it's something that if someone really likes, using Bluetooth headphones, or maybe you bought them Bluetooth headphones as another Christmas gift, this could be an interesting solution if you're willing to put this stuff together for them.
Right, I definitely agree with that.
Other than that, just the games I want to mention for this, just a couple of throw out very short games that have quick play sessions, and both of these were 3DS games, so they're made for the portable play already. I just started playing Resident Evil Revelations this week, and that was a 3DS title. And the first one, at least, which was made for 3DS, they broke down the chapters in that you can literally play like 15 minutes of that game and you'll get a complete little bit of storyline. You'll complete a challenge, maybe even fight a boss, and then you're done for now. And then the next chapter will always have like a previously on Resident Evil Revelations. They kind of recap what you just did last 15 minutes, but it's really broken down into nice bite-sized chunks for portable gaming.
Yes, now on that same vein, I would definitely recommend Azure Striker Gunvolts. The stages are broken up into smaller sections, and it's pretty easy to quickly get through one stage to move on to the next. So that's something that I would recommend for this as well.
Yeah, also a 3DS game, which was great. Well, the Striker Pack has 2 games packed in there, but yeah, they were both 3DS titles, and it's super fun, super fun. The catch-all idea is just 2 things. I think that if you're at a loss, you can get the equivalent of the gift card for your Switch friend. Just get him an eShop gift card. Let him, pick out something that they like. Maybe there's something coming out that isn't quite out yet that they want to grab. You can get them the eShop card and they'll be able to unlock what they want. And then there's, of course, Amiibo.
Amiibos. Yes, if you know that someone is a fan of a specific character and you want to give them something that has additional functionality other than looking cool on someone's shelf, Amiibos are the way to go. It's such a good way to give them, to actually be kind of thoughtful while also giving them something that's pretty functional as well.
Okay, all right. Well, that is our list. I think that actually looking over anything that people even mentioned on Facebook, we should have covered pretty much something that you can get anybody that you're looking for on this list. But if you're not sure exactly what, like we mentioned with the battery packs or the memory cards, if you're looking for specifics, we are going to have links to all the things that we mentioned specifically in the show description, and we'll probably put them on the website as well at theswitchcast.com. Again, those are going to be affiliate links, so if you are going to buy these things, please consider clicking on our links to them. That will take you to Amazon. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It just gives us a little bit of whatever Amazon makes from the sale to the Switchcast as kind of like a little advertising kickback for, sending people their way. With that, I think we're at a close. Well, I'm pretty satisfied. It was kind of, like I said, a year in review of all the best stuff that came out for the Switch in 2017.
Yeah. No, not every gamer has the same tastes, and I want to help out and see and point out which games would fit which type of player.
Yeah. So we're going to end that there. Let me just go and shift into the news rundown. There's not much. I just want to list mostly the new releases and give everyone a quick list of the updates of the most timely stuff. All right, so all we have to talk about is a couple updates I wanted to throw out there and a few games that are coming up. Splatoon 2, we got the update with the Clan Blitz mode finally, so that's a whole new gameplay that is now available. That'll be appearing now in ranked and league battle modes, and it has a whole new mechanic where you have to collect clams and you save up to make one big shot at the enemy's flag, basically, to score.
Yes, so Rocket League actually got a performance update today. It's a really welcome performance update since handheld performance was one of the big issues with the Switch version of this game. It looks like they're continuously improving that, and I'm happy to see that that handheld mode has a lot of graphic improvements that make it easier to see what's going on and where the ball is.
Yep. And also, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle has the Versus mode available now, so you can actually get to 2 players and compete against each other and put your best teams to the test and see if your tactics actually work against something that's not an artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun because originally Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle was primarily a co-op experience. So adding a competitive mode is huge. Yeah. It's a lot of fun for the game.
A lot of good longevity, yeah. Down the pipe, we had a big announcement. Payday 2 has a date of February. It will be coming out on the Switch. We hadn't heard from this title in a while, so it's actually great to finally know it's closing in pretty soon.
Right, absolutely. Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection is coming out next year, May 2018. This one has a huge compilation of games. Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter 2nd Impact, Street Fighter 3rd Strike. You get the idea.
Yeah,
There's a lot of Street Fighter here, and I can't wait.
I'm curious how they're going to do, if they're going to do online with that or what other kind of...
I feel like, I believe they confirmed that all of these will have online play.
Okay.
So this is going to be the first time Street Fighter 3 Third Strike is getting online multiplayer. That is a huge deal.
Yes. Also was very huge during the Game Awards last week. We got revealed that Bayonetta 3 is in development and coming to the Switch.
Fly me to the moon.
That is
yes,
very exciting to a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I love the Bayonetta series. I'm so glad Nintendo revived this game from death on the Wii U, and that the franchise is now thriving on the Nintendo platform. It's surreal to see a character like Bayonetta be so prominent under Nintendo's tutelage. But you know what? I welcome the gameplay. I'm so excited.
Yes. And we also, on top of that, we got announced that Bayonetta 1 and 2 are coming as a special edition February 16th of next year, just to get you, up to date in case you've never played the series before, and Switch is the first Nintendo system maybe you've had in a while.
3 days before my birthday. Thank you, Bayonetta.
Very nice, very nice. All right, let's just run down the new releases. What came out last week? We got the Zelda Breath of the Wild Champions Ballad DLC. So, and that's the one
That's the
one that has that motorcycle, or that was revealed for the next DLC?
No, I think it's this one.
Oh, that's this one. Wow, that looks so awesome. He looks ridiculously cool.
Oh, yeah.
We also got Dimension Drive, Floor Kids, which is that little dancing game that looked pretty interesting.
It was surprisingly hyped up within our community.
Yeah. Plague Road, The Sexy Brutale, Yodanji, Riptide GP Renegade, Plantera Deluxe, Acorn Tactics, Neo Geo Top Hunter, Slain Back from Hell, Embers of Miram, Phantom Breaker Battlegrounds Overdrive, Human Fall Flat, Vostok Incorporated, Teslagrad, Red Game Without a Great Name, Dimension Drive, Tennis in the Face, Pinball FX3, I'll mention especially because of that. We are going to be having a guest next week from the company that made that. We're going to have one of the developers on to talk with us next week. So a little spoiler about what's coming on in the near future.
Spoilers.
And Party Planet, The End is Nigh, and Gunbird came out all last week.
So sometime next week, we don't know when,
yeah,
but sometime, versus Super Mario Brothers is coming out, and Neo Geo Pulsar.
Yeah.
Now, on December 14th, which is the day of this recording, Ukulele is coming out, finally, after all this time. Yes! Enter the Gungeon, Polybridge, Never Stop Sneakin', Bleed, Neo Geo The Last Blade, One More Dungeon, Mecho Tales, Gorogoa, and Unholy Nights.
Unholy Heights.
Unholy Heights.
There you go. December 15th has a interesting one. They just surprisingly announced Romancing Saga 2 coming out on the Switch, and that's going to be coming out the 15th, the day we post this. I'm looking forward to this because I've been hungry for an RPG. I played this actually on the iPhone, and it's a really hardcore RPG. Like, this is like Final Fantasy in an alternate dimension. It kind of feels like that. And it's really hard. It has this whole system of when your characters die a certain number of times, they're dead for good, and then they kind of got to pass their powers on to the next generation to pick up where they left off in the story. And it kind of takes place over like many generations, and you'll make decisions now, like as the Emperor, you get to be like the Emperor in this game, and you'll say like, I want you to build this thing. All right, it'll be done next generation, and you have to wait until time passes in the game or people die for those things to come to fruition. Very interesting.
Yeah.
If it's really hard, like you really like.
It's very brutal. Yeah. It's punishing.
I'll talk more about that if I get to play it. We also got Unepic and Hiragana Pixel Party, which is a fun game that teaches you hiragana. It's a fun little rhythm game actually to teach you how to understand Japanese characters.
I am sold. So on December 19th, we have Crawl, Dragon Fang Z, The Rose and Dungeon of Time, and Brawl Out. Yeah. I was actually quite interested in Brawl Out itself because it is a Super Smash Bros. Brawl clone.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't necessarily say clone, but is on that genre, pulling a lot of inspiration from Smash Bros. So I want to see how an indie developer really sinks their teeth into that genre.
Yeah. I also want to mention Crawl was an interesting title because it's a game where it's like a D&D dungeon crawl, but one player is the hero and the other three control the monsters that he fights. And when the Yes. And when the hero dies, one of the monster players becomes the hero, and I think it's just like, who can survive a certain amount of time or reach a certain destination. And so, when the players kill you, one of the monster players becomes the hero, and they have to kind of try to continue the quest and be the ones to finish whatever the challenge is.
That sounds fun.
Yes.
That sounds really good. Now on December 21st, the next Penelope, Tiny Metal, Mom Hid My Game, Puzzle Box Maker, Tiny Troopers Joint Ops XL, Max the Curse of Brotherhood, Frederick Resurrection of Music, and The Dear God.
And lastly, I just want to kind of do a really quick try at a news section. Since everyone always asks us what games we want to see come over to the Switch from other things, I just figured every week we'd pick one title that stuck out to us that maybe we thought of, or it could be new, it could be old, just something that we feel like we would like to pitch as a potential game to come over to the Switch. And this week, as my inaugural pick, I saw this, and I picked this because they keep talking about Hearthstone coming over to here, and I think it would be more interesting actually if they brought over something a little less known called Duelist, Duelyst. This is a Steam game. You make cards, you collect cards, but it's played out with an actual grid where the units you summon, move around, and there's range, and it has a really cool, a pixely kind of art style to it. But there's all these different factions that you could pick with their own units. And it's a really cool strategic CCG-ish kind of game that has a really great competitive scene. And I think it would be great on the touchscreen of the Switch.
Now, for my pick for a system Switch, if you guys know me, you know this is an easy guess. I would love Persona 5 to appear on this Switch. Persona 5, if you don't know, is a JRPG in the Shin Megami Tensei Persona series. It's the newest entry. It's amazing. It's considered one of the best JRPGs of this current generation. And I feel like it would be a great fit in the Switch because it came out on the PS3 as well. That means the Switch's hardware would absolutely be capable of running this thing, and I would love to play it on the go and also on the TV.
It did win Best Role-Playing Game at the Game Awards last week, too.
Yeah, so it's an award-winning RPG that would fit the Switch perfectly.
All right.
I think this would be a great pick.
Awesome. All right, great. We'll try to do this every week and just, find something like that. But that will be our official closer act of the episode. So I just want to take this time, again, remind everybody, we have a great Patreon, patreon.com/theswitchcast. Pledge your support, $1, $5, whatever you feel like a month. Keeps the show going, helps pay for the equipment and the games that we play here so that we can keep doing this show. And thank you everybody who's been supporting us as is.
A non-monetary way to support us would be to rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. We have a list of 10 reviewers here, so I want to say great thank you to J.M. Batson, Low5x5, Grown Gamer, Kool-Ace 101, Joe Buchen, John R726, Goat Island Rocker, HJFJGH, which I think is jamming, Hajifujika, Melamo Waffles, JRC502. If I butchered your name, I'm sorry. They're screen names. But thank you so much for sending us reviews. You guys are incredible.
Screen names are made to be butchered. But, yes, if you want to go visit us other places where we can butcher your screen names, we have a Discord chat, link in the description for that. That's just our best hangout spot. We're always there, and it's always active. A lot of people to talk about any game you want. Facebook group, again, link in the show description. It's kind of like our forums. And Twitter, you could follow us on there. We like to post out anytime that we have an event going on, or if there's a really breaking piece of news that we think is worthy, we'll usually tweet that out as well. That's at the SwitchCast.
Yes, and I definitely want to thank the HeatleyBros for our theme music, Halk Prodonome and Will Rock for the closing music, and until next time,
switch it up.
Merry Christmas.